the newest film by M. Night Shyamalan. So yeah, if you've been on this channel for any amount of time, you might have noticed something is different. I have a green screen behind me, and if you're wondering why I have my hood up, my window behind me is kind of messing with the background, so, because you can tell it's not, and it's a chroma key background, so there's kind of like a blurriness effect around me, and the window behind me was making it worse. So I just decided to try something new with this. Let me know what you think of it. If you don't like it, I'll go back to my usual setup. But I decided to just try something new for this video, so that's what I'm doing. And so yeah, today we're talking about Knock at the Cabin. If you're wondering why this is over a week late, it's simply because I didn't want to watch this fucking movie. I hate M. Night Shyamalan's movies about as much as anybody. I thought The Sixth Sense was good. I thought Unbreakable was fine. I didn't think it was great. And I thought Split was okay. I didn't see The Visit, though I've heard that one's pretty decent as well. But like I said, I've never seen it. But all of his other films I've hated so much. Signs, The Village, Lady in the Water, The Happening, The Last Airbender, Devil, After Earth, Glass. I've hated them so much. So, I obviously wasn't looking forward to watching this movie, because I just feel obligated to watch these, like, bigger movies, otherwise I wouldn't bother. And let me just say, if I was watching this at home, like, if this was on, like, streaming or something, I might have given up, because it is so boring. That's the biggest problem with this movie, is that it's boring. Now, this is not the first M. Night Shyamalan movie to be boring, because, like I said, movies like Glass, or The Last Airbender, or Signs, I found to be incredibly boring. This one, I will say, at least it wasn't as insufferable as some Shyamalan movies were. Like, Glass was insufferable. That was the last one of his, I believe, unless there was one I missed, but it was insufferable to sit through. The Last Airbender was kind of insufferable. If I had a childhood connection to the show, it probably would have been even more offensive, but I just found that to be a minor inconvenience. But movies like Glass, or Signs, or The Happening, or Lady in the Water were insufferable, especially Lady in the Water. Those were insufferable to sit through. The best thing I can say about this movie is that, unlike a lot of other Shyamalan movies, the acting pulls through. Nothing the characters say makes any sense, but at least the actors are trying their asses off to make it sound natural. But unfortunately, they're stuck with a script by M. Night Shyamalan, so they have some of the dumbest fucking lines I've ever heard in my life. So Dave Bautista's the main lead. I guess you consider him the main lead, either be him or Jonathan Groff, but Bautista has top billing, so that's what I'm going with, and he does okay in this movie. I've never thought Bautista was a fantastic actor. He does well enough in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but he does okay here. This is the first thing I've seen Rupert Grint in since the Harry Potter movies. I think he's done other stuff, but this is the first thing I've seen him in since 2011, and he's pretty good for the limited amount of lines he has in this movie. Jonathan Groff is fine, I guess, and all the other actors I don't really recognize, but again, everybody does fine for the script they're given. The problem is the story. It's the biggest one, is the story. Usually it is for a Shyamalan movie. And my biggest problem is that the premise of this is so off the walls insane that it sounded enticing. But then I saw a bunch of other people talk about how boring the movie was and how uninteresting the movie was, and that was the reason I kept putting this off. Is because I'm like, oh, this actually sounds like this could be off the walls insane because of the premise. Like, the premise is they have to choose one of these three family members to sacrifice to stop the apocalypse. And that's a dumb premise, but at least it's like so dumb, there's so much you can do with this idea. But they don't really do anything with it. And the biggest problem with it is that most Shyamalan movies have a twist to them. Most of them do. I don't think After Earth didn't. Was that the only one that didn't? I think that might have been the only one, but most Shyamalan movies have a twist. And I assumed that the twist would be that killing one of these family members would not stop the apocalypse. This had nothing to do with an apocalypse, but it was mainly just these four crazy people that just were here to kill one of them for some currently unknown reason. But that's never really made clear whether or not it's the case. it's never made clear whether or not it would actually stop the apocalypse. It's never made clear whether or not these are just 4 crazy lunatics out in the woods. So, and again, there's so much you can do with this idea. There's a lot of flashbacks in this movie. Something else I want to talk about. The flashbacks in this movie are so weirdly placed. Like, I get they're trying to tell the backstory of these characters, but they just seem like they're haphazardly thrown in. The editing doesn't always work. Oh, and speaking of editing, let's get into the Shyamalan cinematography of it, shall we? Now, we all know Shyamalan's one of those directors that is always like, notice my directing with the cinematography, like it's always some weird camera angle. Here, he has the same problem. There are a lot of close-ups, like someone is like this close to the camera. They are like 3 inches, like I swear to God, they're about to headbutt the fucking camera. And they go on these shots go on forever, and there's a ton of them. Like, in, like, one of the first scenes, might have been the first scene, the talk between Batista, who I believe his name is Leonard, I think, and the little girl, every shot, the character was 3 feet from the camera. The kid started to creep me out, because every shot of hers, she was 3 inches in front of the camera. It was disturbing. And then there's a lot of other weird stuff, like when they first break into the cabin, Rupert Grint's character, can't remember his name, but he's getting his ass kicked by one of the guys. He's like beating the shit out of him. But they have like one of those GoPro shots that I fucking hate in movies, where they have to do the realism GoPro shot. But it's like they attached it to his back, so it was like watching like the back of his head as he was getting the shit beaten out of him. It's like, what are you doing? Why are we looking at... This is not the camera angle we need to be focusing on. And one of the worst shots in this film, like one of the dumbest shots, is they're showing some like TV footage of a wave like crashing over a beach, like trying to show like, oh, this is the apocalypse like starting and everything. But I think it was supposed to be shot on someone's cell phone. And if that's the case, you can literally see, like, the wave comes over the camera, over the phone, and it's still recording while it's underwater. It's like, okay, like, first off, why? Why did we need the extra, like, if you had the wave, like, crashing onto the camera and then it, like, cut out, like a lot of movies do, that probably would have been a bit more effective in getting the point across. Because when it just showed the camera, like, just, like, floating in the water, it looked silly, for one. And 2, how the hell did they get their hands on this thing? And why? It's just, like, none of that makes sense. None of the cinematography has any purpose. It's just, I think this'll be different. This is my problem with Shyamalan, or one of my many problems with Shyamalan, is that he's so far up his own ass with his cinematography that he constantly feels the need, I need to make this as different as possible from everybody else, without thinking it through. It's like, oh, no one's done this. It's like, yeah, maybe there's a reason for that. I don't want to get into spoilers with this movie. Honestly, there's like so little to talk about with this movie, because like I said, it's fucking boring. And is this the most boring Shyamalan movie? I don't know. I think Glass was probably more boring than... Glass was like insufferable to sit through. Like, it was like so overly pretentious with like, oh, look at this, we're dodging cliches and everything, and it's like we're like dodging superhero cliches. Like I remember one thing in that movie where they were teased like there was going to be a big fight on top of this big building that's like being like just opening. I don't remember what it was. I haven't seen that movie in like 3 years since it came out. But they set that up and then they just don't do it. It's just a shitty fight in a parking lot. Like, that was their way of subverting expectations, which, oh my god, I hate saying that out loud, because everyone's trying to copy The Last Jedi with their subverting expectations, and it's like, people don't understand that a lot of people hated The Last Jedi. And I'm getting off topic, I'm talking about Glass now, let's get back to this. I didn't like this movie, clearly. As far as a recommendation goes, that's going to be a negative, Ghost Rider, and there's a very specific reason for that. If this was an off-the-walls, insane Shyamalan movie like The Happening, or even something as stupid as Devil, I'd probably say go watch it I wouldn't say see in theaters, don't give this piece of shit money. I'd say wait for a rental, like a Redbox rental, like $1.50 is probably more than you should pay for any Shyamalan movie. But normally that'd be my recommendation. If it lived up to the absurdity of the premise, I'd be giving this a recommendation for like a Redbox rental. But I can't recommend this because if I was watching this at home, I wouldn't give a shit I didn't give a shit what was happening. The movie could have stopped halfway through and I wouldn't have given less of a crap. I honestly don't know. If this was a streaming movie, it would have taken me several days to finish it. Like I would have had to, like I've had movies where I've had to watch it in like 20-minute increments because that's all I could handle. That would have been this movie. So that's all I got for this. Don't watch this. Don't give this movie your money. Don't give Shyamalan movies your money. I'm giving this a D because at least the acting was okay. So yeah, that's all I got for this, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.